Hey guys, I am down on the allotment today and I am going to be trying to put up a low tunnel for the first time. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, which is just south of Tokyo, Japan in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, so if you watched my video from last week where I was checking in with my seedlings, you'll know that I was having some trouble with my stalk, which was starting to yellow. Now the reason I have an allotment is because my garden is terrible for growing. It has really bad sunlight, it has quite a strong wind, although it's really windy down here today as well, and the soil is really bad, which is why I have this place in the first place. But most of my seedlings are doing really well, except for my stalk, which had started to yellow. Now there were three reasons I thought it could be yellowing: either too much water, too little water, or not enough sunshine. Now I'm pretty sure I was doing my watering quite well, but so I thought it must have been the sunlight, and so I started to move my little pod around a lot to kind of catch the sun as it moved around the house during the day, and that was fine until the wind blew it down and nearly killed everything in my seed pod. So I've decided I need to do something. Now in the weeks since I made that video, I have had some improvement. These stalk are looking a lot better. There's very little yellowing on those at all, whereas these ones still look pretty poor and are not happy at all. So I need to do something. Now, after I put that video up online, I did get a lot of comments, thank you very much, and a lot of tips, and basically people are saying I need to pot them on, my stalk needs more room, the roots need more room. If I pot them on, this won't happen, they'll be happier. I had other people saying I should just have put them out. If I'm in zone 9B, I could just direct sow them in autumn and they would have been fine, and I think that's something I'll think about for next year. Obviously I can't do that now, it's January, but for next year I might look at just direct sowing, although having direct sowed my sweet pea, they are going really slowly. The same day that I direct sowed them into the garden, I had a few extra seeds, so I popped them in one of these trays, and you know, it's not massive, this one, it's not massive in there. There's only two because after they fell on my head, I lost quite a few. So there's one which is still quite small. I've actually got three. Here's a nice tall one, and there's that one. So I put these here on the same day as I direct sowed into my garden, and we can look at the ones in my garden. So you can see these are coming, but they're not very big. I think that's probably my biggest one. And the ones on that side aren't doing much at all. So because of that, I am a bit reluctant to just direct seed. It seems that things are getting a much slower start, but I guess it's a lot less work for me. I don't need to be pottering about getting these potted on and into their little seed pods and all that jazz. So maybe I'll do that next year. Somebody else said I should just put them out. And that, I think, is what I'm going to do. Now, I'm in zone 9B. My last frost is in about 4 weeks' time. And even then, it's not a cold, hard frost. You know, we're getting down to -2 a couple of nights a week. But then, you know, we're up to kind of 8, 9, 10 degrees again in the day. The problem I'm having right now is the wind. And I think that's what's going on with my freesia, which just looks so sad down here. Now, I have freesia in my front garden at home. It's about this much of a strip down the side of the driveway. I have freesia in there, and they're looking a lot nicer than these. So I know that it's not the temperatures that's affecting these, but as you can probably hear in the sound quality, there's a real wind blows through here. Now my neighbour here has put up a wind block, which I'm thinking might be a good idea, to try and help with that. But I'm going to come back to dealing with them in a bit. But yeah, so I think I'm going to try and just put these out, but I don't want to put them out when there's still a chance they might all get killed off by frost. So I've invested in a low tunnel. Got the sun right in my eyes. Now you can see, looking around the allotment behind me, that a lot of other people have low tunnels up as well, but they don't have plastic over them. They've just got bug netting over them. They're growing the likes of lettuce and things in there, so that netting is basically to keep off the birds from eating the new seeds and to keep the slugs off them as well. But you know, they seem to be doing all right. Now, I looked online as to how to put up a low tunnel, and there were some pretty extreme examples of people using like the U-pin things and screwing them down and using tension ropes and all that kind of jazz, and it seems like a lot. Having looked around the garden, it seems like washing clothes pegs or how everyone here does it. This one has nothing at all. It's just tied off at the end with netting. These ones have clothes pegs either end just to keep the netting on, but nothing in the middle. And they're just folded over at the ends, so there's nothing down the sides keeping them on. This one has a combination of clothes pegs and then a bar over the top every second one to keep it on. That's quite a good idea. But then his next one here is all just pegs all the way down. And he's also got a pole down here to keep the sides down. Again, he's used an over the top method in the middle and just tied them off. Which way is best? So the main difference between what I'm putting on and what these guys have on is that these ones are all netting, so the wind can just pass through them. So I'm guessing they're not getting a huge amount of trouble from the wind, whereas mine's going to be plastic to stop the wind, and that might need something stronger. But before I think about that, I need to get my stock in the ground. So I'm going to put it in this back corner. Now I've done this on purpose. Last year I had this where my freesia and anemone and stuff are before, and it gets really hot in the spring very quickly, and a lot of the stock that I had out there went dormant and it didn't get quite as long as I wanted it to get, and I ended up putting a shade cloth on it for a little bit as well. So this time I've chosen this back corner because, as you can see, could see about 2 seconds ago until the sun went behind a cloud, this corner gets the most shade. The house behind me shades this off from about midday onwards. So I'm hoping that that's going to stop them from getting too hot too fast. I have four different types of stock. I have vintage brown. I have this is apricot stock. This is miracle yellow. And then I have some Christmas pink and a random mix that I had. Now, obviously, I don't have a lot. There's only 12 in each one. So it's not going to take up a huge amount of the garden. Stock doesn't get much bushier than this, a little bit. So I've found from last year that I can plant these. What is my hair doing? Oh, sorry. I found that I can plant these really close together. They don't have a lot of foliage and they're one and done. So as soon as I cut them, I can pull them up and get something else in there as well. So they don't need a lot of room. Also in the spot I'm planning on putting them, you can see I actually have quite a good leaf mulch down here. Just randomly, this is where I've been kind of dumping all of my leaves and all of my stalks and all the stuff that I've been digging up from the garden until I get time to come and pick it up and put it all in a plastic bag, which I've done behind me. So this actually has quite a nice mulch on it, which should help keep the roots warm and stop a hard frost, and then keep them cooler when it ramps up the heat, so that they don't go to flower too soon. Australia isn't the only place that gets huntsman spiders. Found this guy living in my fertilizer bag. Okay, now all my stock is in and watered. I've got so many little bird friends here hunting for good stuff I dig up. And there's a massive spider over there somewhere. Go get it. Now it is time to start setting up this tunnel and figuring out how we're going to do it. So I'm going to start with the easy bit, which is the uprights. Okay, so first I have my 2 end poles, which I'm going to drive in at a 45-degree angle. Then I've got my round poles. Now this is a tiny amount of area, so I'm only going to use 3 of these. One at the front. One at the back. One in the middle. Looks all right. Okay, so next to my plastic, this is what I've got. And this is supposed to be 1.35 meters wide by 5 meters long, which is massive. My row is about 85, I'm gonna say 85 wide, so with a bit at each end, it's gonna overlap. But it's max a meter just over long. So I'm gonna have to cut this down or I'll just be left with streams of it blowing all over the garden. Let's see how much I need. Of course it's going to blow away. Of course. Okay, so before I cut it, I'm going to tie it on one end to make sure I've definitely actually got enough to tie this on nice and tight. And that's what this pole is for. Then I'm going to take one of my little metal pegs. I used these to peg out where my lining was last year. And I have them left because they're metal. So I'm just going to take one of these, put it through that loop, and anchor that down. And hopefully that'll keep that end in. Luckily the plastic I've chosen has writing right down the middle, which means I know if that's a straight line, which is great. So I'm going to leave myself plenty for tying it up and just cut it through. Really sticky plastic, it doesn't want to pull tight. I've got some sticking out. I think I need to move my front hoop further forward. I did also read online that you should have your front one and your back one at like a 60-degree angle just to help pull with the tension. I think that would make sense if my tunnel were longer. But I've only got the 3, so I don't think it actually matters that much. That seems alright for now, but this garden's tricked me before and I know it can get really windy. So I am going to put something over this just to make sure it stays down if the wind picks up. My plan was to do this using baling twine, some garden twine, and more of these little pegs because I already have them. And I was just going to tie this around one peg, pull it over kind of in the middle bits of here, and then peg down the other side. And I think that would work fine. But I've got 2 hoops left, and I don't think I'm going to put this anywhere else. If my freesia don't pick up, I might put it on my freesia, but these are dead easy just to pull out again, so I can just pull them out. So I think I'm just going to do what the guy over there did and put 2 hoops over this. Yeah. I'm pretty chuffed with that. Okay, so a few things about the plastic. I chose quite a strong plastic. As you can see, there is no other plastic on my garden. Some of my allotment neighbours like to use landscaping fabric to keep down the weeds. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put unnecessary plastic in my garden. It's only 4 meters by 5 meters. It's not hard for me to come down here and water it, to weed it, sorry. So I just don't do that. So I wanted to get a nice strong plastic so that I could actually reuse it over and over and over again, and it wouldn't just be use it once and be done with it. Having thought that this was a really big plastic that I bought, I've actually used just under half of it. So if you are going to do this, you need to buy more than the area you're covering, because it takes quite a lot to make the knots at either end. I don't have any water on the site here. All my water comes down in big plastic carrier things, and I then have to put it on by hand, which means I have no drip irrigation. So if I'd gone for the regular tunnels that are completely enclosed, it would have been really hard for me to water. It would have been really annoying to water these. So instead I got this one, which actually has little holes in it. Now, like I say, I don't think this is going to be on for long. I am zone 9B. If we get a frost, it's not going to be a crazy frost. We're not going to get snow and all that jazz. So this is really just to give these guys a little bit of protection from the wind and to keep the ground from freezing solid. But by having these little holes in it, it means that it's going to be easier for any rain to get in there when we do get proper rainfall. Or I can come and water this quite easily. Just stick the schnozzle of my watering can through there, and hopefully that'll be enough. It does get hot quite quickly here as well, and the temperature fluctuation throughout the day is quite insane. Some days, you know, we can go from -2 to 15 degrees. So again, this just lets a little bit of ventilation, so I know that this isn't going to get so roasting hot in there. You know, I am in a shaded corner anyway, but I don't want these guys to get too hot too fast, so this adds a little bit of ventilation. So for where I am in my area, I love this. I think this is great. Ooh, all cozy warm. Hi guys. Okay, that is all from me for today. My fingers are absolutely freezing. I'm going to go home and warm up with a cup of tea. If you've watched along this far, thank you. And if you want to see if this actually helps, if my freesia survive, getting pretty worried about them. What happens with my ranunculus? We're getting ready to get all our spring flowers coming up. I actually got my first anemone at home, and it wasn't from this anemone patch or the ones that came up in my planter from last year. It was a random one in this shaded side garden at my house. I noticed yesterday had come up, so I've technically had my first flower of the season. But if you want to follow along and see how this goes, then remember to hit the subscribe button below. If you want to see what I do with all the flowers that I cut, oh, it's cold. If you want to see what I do with all the flowers that I cut, you can check out everything that I did last season and everything that I'm making now with some of my dried flowers at my Instagram, which is From the Witch's Garden, and there's a link to that below as well. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.